The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Welcome to the Fandotech Friday 15 Mission Technical Reconnaissance. If you have any questions during the presentation, type them into your chat window. This week, our presenter, Craig Samson, hey, that's me, is telling us a few not-so-well-known tricks of Microsoft Word. So I want to get started today by jumping directly into Microsoft Word. We don't have to go through a dull PowerPoint presentation for this, so I'm going to pop into a blank document and get us off on a subject that some of my former students, as I used to teach classes on how to learn about Microsoft Word, this question came up quite a bit. Sometimes people would notice that the behavior of Microsoft Word would change while they were inside the document. They would go to fix a misspelled word. Let's say we wanted to take this word retweet here that you see on screen, and we wanted to hyphenate it. So we type a hyphen in there, and basically, let's see if this is going to work. This version of Microsoft Word is slightly different than the one that I was practicing on earlier today. They've kind of changed it. I wanted to tell you about the insert key behavior in the more classic version of Microsoft Word. If you ever accidentally hit your insert key, you might notice that in some versions of Word, the cursor starts to overwrite other characters. Normally, if you add characters in between existing ones, it pushes those apart and makes way for the new one, which it did for me here. And so I'm not quite able to demonstrate the behavior I was going to demonstrate, where it overwrites it instead. So if you've ever had it where you type and it seems to be overwriting, look to your insert key as the problem. That's kind of a hidden feature of some versions of Word that changes the behavior of the cursor from an insert to an overwrite mode. So that's sort of random item number one that I wanted to talk about today. This has saved the lives of a few of my students who are being driven crazy by it. And then I wanted to go on and talk about some visual clues. And what I mean by visual clues is that Microsoft Word tells you quite a bit about what you can do right now just by looking at the shape of your cursor, or your mouse pointer. And I'm going to zip over to a blank document here. And one thing you might notice, I put my mouse pointer a little below the blinking cursor there. And if you look at it, you'll notice that it has, to the right of the I-beam itself, a little indicator that it's in left align mode. Something that some people don't know is that you can actually place your cursor anywhere on the page that you want when starting a new document. So if I don't want to start up here in the upper left corner, I want to start it, say, right here where my mouse pointer is located, I just double-click at that point. That little clue next to the I-beam is going to tell me that basically from this point where I double-clicked on, we've left-aligned text. So if I type some stuff, you'll see it tends to go and stays left-aligned where I started it. Now, of course, since I started it in the middle and we've got our margins defined out here, it will jump back when you keep typing to your margin point. But you can start it anywhere you want. To continue with that thought on the visual clues issue, if I move my mouse pointer sort of towards the middle of the page, you'll notice that the I-beam now has underneath it a set of center alignment paragraph markers. Basically, in this case, if I double-click where I see that symbol under my mouse pointer, it center aligns at that point. And as you can see, if I keep typing, it stays centered. And of course, the same trick holds true on the right-hand margin. If you move over there, your I-beam pointer is now accompanied by the right alignment symbol. So of course, that's going to right align to the right side of the page. There are some other clues as well that are not quite so clear. Anytime you see your mouse pointer change shape, I always would wonder why it changed shape, and that's the little visual clue that tells us some things. For instance, if I move to the top of the page, and this is Microsoft Word 2007, so 2007 and 2010 behave the same way in this sense, where I get this little marker up here at the top, and that's the marker that tells me I can double-click. It actually has a tooltip that will explain it in a moment. And there we go. I bring it back. And if I let that tooltip appear for you, it says double-click to hide the white space. So there are these helpful little tooltips that will appear to help explain some of the visual clues. What they're talking about with that, what do you mean, remove white space? All it is in the layout window. I'll show you in that sample document I loaded up a few minutes ago. It's got the same thing to eliminate white space. And if I double-click it, you'll notice that vertically, and this is showing a little messed up because I'm looking at two documents at once here, or actually two pages at once. Change it back to one page, and we can go to where we saw that little marker, again here. And of course, now it's not going to cooperate with me. You gotta love demonstrations. Sometimes they don't always work the way you anticipate. When you see that little marker, which it's not giving me at the moment, all it's going to do is trim out this space in between the pages, so it's no big deal. I was just letting you know that's another sample of a visual clue. One other important one that I want to cover before I move on to another subject is what happens when you move your mouse pointer to the left-hand side into the margin on the left. And what you see is it points upwards to the right instead of normally pointing upwards to the left. And what that's telling us is that we can go ahead and actually select the entire line. So if I do that, as you see, it selects the whole line. And now I can just drag it down and really very quickly pick up an entire paragraph. A term for you, this little thing that popped up when I selected that, if you're familiar with the new Microsoft Office, you know you get these now when you select something. That is a smart toolbar that appears with a selection. And it offers us a host of the most common options that people will use when they select something. Like you might select it to make it bold. Indeed, there's a bold button on here. So it's just a little shortcut for you to get to some of the most common used features right away. Now, one of the other things I was going to talk about today is the command ribbon at the top. That's this whole area along the top edge that replaced the classical toolbars and menus Microsoft Word used to have. Now, if you were a fan of that old way, my condolences to you. We're all getting used to this new ribbon. Now, of course, the ribbon has changed a little bit since this version. Here in the lab, I was hoping we had 2010, so I could show you the newest version. This one's 2007. It's got some slight differences in the command ribbon. To illustrate one of those differences between 2007 and 2010, let me go over here to the Office button. This button has disappeared in 2010, and it's been replaced with a File tab. The File tab acts much like the old File menu used to. So if I click it here, I get this little menu that pops up. The menu also has gone away, and it's been replaced by a full-screen page that appears when you go to the File menu, or excuse me, the File tab. However, the functions under here are basically the same. One of the things that people seem to have lost in Microsoft Word, and I can show you where to find it now, is what happened to the word options. I used to go in and change my options occasionally, and it's gone because there's no menu up here. It used to be under the Tools menu. But now you can find it in this version under the Office button. At the bottom of the menu, there's a little button down here called Word Options. That's where it went. If you're using Office 2010, you'll see that this strip is kind of similar in 2010, and at the bottom of the strip is the Word Options. So it kind of went to this new File section over in the corner. Up along the top of our command ribbon, we have this thing is known as the Quick Access Toolbar. So the Quick Access Toolbar is where we go to get some of our most frequently used commands. By default, the Save, undo and redo buttons are here. But I like to add a couple more, and I want to show you how to do that. There's a little button here next to it. You click it. I like to have New Document button up there. I often start with a new blank document, so I like to have that. And I also like to have my Print button, or in this case, Quick Print. Quick Print means that one click is going to send it directly to your printer. You can still use the Print menu on the File tab in order to, say, make multiple copies and so forth. So Quick Print's going to print just one right away to your printer. Now they've added some more things down here. There are more commands you can add. And if we go into this list, you're brought to this Customize panel that I'm not going to get into too deeply, just to say that in this left list, we have all the possible commands that you could move up there into the Quick Access toolbar. And if you want to add one, such as I want to have the save, let's see, I already have save, so I'm going to just insert page setup as an example. And I just add it to the menu over here. When I click OK, it will go ahead and now give me that page setup button up in the command, the Quick Access toolbar. Another key difference between Microsoft Word 2007 and 2010 is the customizing of the whole command ribbon. In 2007, you cannot customize this ribbon. Essentially, it's stuck the way it is. In 2010, you have an option which you can basically still find right up here in the More Commands section to jump into customizing that ribbon. So when you customize the ribbon, you can actually create new groups, these little groups like the paragraph group here, and put new buttons and rearrange them and so forth. So 2010 gives you a little more flexibility. All right, and moving right along, I wanted to talk about a couple hidden things, or not so commonly found things. Something about your clipboard. It's right here on the Home tab in the left corner. The first thing about it is there's a little button in the lower right corner of the group. And if I click that, it loads up the clipboard task pane, as they call it. This turns on a special mode for your clipboard. Normally with your clipboard, you say Control-C to copy something, and then you Control-V to paste it. And if you Control-V again and again, of course, it keeps pasting the same thing you copied. But when you enable this special task pane, it allows you to actually copy multiple things. So if I go ahead and copy a few little bits of text here, each one that I copy is being stacked up in my task pane. Now if I paste, it will paste out the last thing that I copied. Basically, that just a regular paste command will behave the way it always did. But when you build this collection of copied items, if you want the first one in the list instead of just the last one, all you do is place your cursor and then go to the appropriate item in the list and paste out that item. So this is very handy if you have a very complicated copy and paste scenario where you're copying multiple things and need to paste them all over the place. And of course, you can paste them all and clear them all out of this clipboard task pane. The task pane will hold up to 24 items total. Now, a couple things about pasting. When you paste, the classic button is up here, but underneath it there's a little menu, and there's Paste Special. And I just want to mention that what they mean by Paste Special is sometimes you don't want to paste, say, all the formatting of something you copied. You just want to move the text over. And that's what this gives you. I can paste it as unformatted text, and that will take away any bold or italic or any types of formats and just give me the text. Some of this unformatted Unicode, a little too complicated to explain here. But basically, your friend is probably the unformatted text for when you want to paste just the text and nothing else. And another thing over here in this is the Format Painter as we kind of wrap up today. The Format Painter has a special ability. And if I double-click something here and say make it bold, so we can see this word is bold, I use the Format Painter to copy that format to somewhere else. I'll push it over here, and it moves the bold to that section. So it just copies your formats. But did you know that if you highlight your sample and double-click the Format Painter button instead of single-click it, it will now stick to your mouse pointer so that you can paste the format multiple times. So that is kind of a cool behavior. To get rid of that, you need to click it again and it'll turn the button off. Now we'll do another session on Microsoft Word in some of the weeks to follow and talk about some other things that I didn't get to today in the time, which I apologize for. Just a quick note, the thing I didn't really quite get to was breaks. I will tell you that there's two breaks. There's a page break and there's a section break. Page breaks, of course, just separate the pages. Section breaks are used for different formatting options. So if you wanted 2 columns on the second page, you can insert a section break that separates the 1 column from the first page to the 2-column formats on the second page. So we'll schedule another session of Microsoft Word and kind of cover some of those and a few other goodies in the weeks to follow. So I want to kind of wrap up today to say thank you to all of today's participants. If I didn't answer all of your questions, I'll circle back with you independently. This webinar will be available for viewing on our blog at blog.fandotech.com, on our YouTube channel at youtube.com/Fandotech, and on SlideShare at slideshare.net/Fandotech. Join us next week for another Fandotech Friday 15 Tech Recon, where guest presenter Kathy Hokinson of SiteSeeker Inc. will be sharing SEO and social media tips for your business. Register today by visiting blog.fandotech.com and clicking on the Friday 15 logo. If you don't see this item yet, we are in the process of updating that for the new year with some new topics. So just stay tuned, and those registration links will all be available. I want to wish you a great new year. And this has been a presentation of Fandotech.